The rain had been relentless all morning, drumming against the corrugated rooftops of Outpost Zephyr, a fringe colony on the edges of the Saran expanse. Humans were rare visitors here, and most of the alien settlers preferred to keep it that way. But today, only one human walked the muddy streets, his boots splashing through puddles as he made his way toward the outskirts. At the edge of the settlement stood a massive figure, one that drew gasps and murmurs from anyone who dared to glance her way. Lyrin was her name, a Saran of the Gornak strain, known for their immense size and powerful limbs. She was easily twice the height of a human and broad in ways that intimidated even the most seasoned warriors of her kind. Her presence usually commanded a wide berth from everyone, yet there was something melancholy in the way she sat on the curb, staring down at her clawed hands. Lyrin had always been too big for her kind. While the other Gornaks prided themselves on agility and delicate coordination for their dances and social rituals, Lyrin could never fit into the spaces her peers deemed proper. Even the simplest tasks, passing through narrow corridors, sitting comfortably in communal seating, were reminders of her otherness. They called her clumsy, awkward, and worse, a misfit. The human approached cautiously, aware of the stares from the settlement's usual inhabitants. But he did not hesitate. He knelt down to meet her gaze, letting the rain soak his shoulders. "You're perfect to me," he whispered. Lyrin froze, her amber eyes wide. "Perfect," she croaked, her voice deep and resonant, echoing slightly in the empty street. I don't belong anywhere. Not here, not among my own kind. I'm too large, too unrefined. They don't even call me by my name anymore. They call me the Tower." The human smiled softly. "Names are just words. You're more than a name, more than what anyone else thinks. You don't have to shrink yourself to fit them. You fit me just right." For the first time in years, Lyrin felt her shoulders loosen. She had never had anyone speak to her like that. Not the elders, not the other Gornaks, not even her parents. Their love had been tempered by expectations she could never meet. But here was a human, so small compared to her, telling her she was enough. I've never met someone who sees me this way," she admitted, a small smile tugging at the corner of her massive mouth. They walked together through the rain-soaked streets, slipping past curious glances and startled murmurs. Lyrin found herself careful not to crush anything beneath her enormous feet. Even the tiny puddles reflecting the gray sky seemed like fragile treasures to her. The human stayed close, hand brushing against hers, not recoiling, not afraid. Hours passed, and the rain slowed to a drizzle. They reached the cliffs that overlooked the expanse, the wind whipping around them in frigid gusts. The horizon stretched endlessly, mountains of stone and ice silhouetted against the fading sun. "I used to think I'd never leave this settlement," Lyrin confessed, her voice low. "I thought I was cursed to live as an outcast. My size. It's always been a burden." "Burden?" The human tilted his head, his eyes shining. "You're beautiful, strong. You command attention because of who you are, not in spite of it. I'd never want you smaller or weaker or like everyone else. I like you like this." Her throat tightened, a rare vulnerability pooling in her chest. No one had ever said these things to her, not with such sincerity. The wind tugged at her hair, lifting it like golden threads, and the human reached up, brushing it back gently. Why do you care?" she asked, almost incredulous. "Because I see the real you," he said simply. "Not the labels, not the gossip, not the whispers. Just you. And to me that's everything." For the first time, Lyrin felt the weight of years lift, the burden of other people's expectations dissolving like mist in the morning sun. She let herself lean down, her massive frame folding slightly to meet him at eye level. His hand found hers again, fingers intertwining. They stayed like that, watching the sunset bleed into the horizon. The human whispered things she had never dared to dream of hearing, words that affirmed her, celebrated her, made her feel as if she truly belonged, for the first time anywhere. Night fell, and they returned to the settlement together. But this time the stairs didn't matter. Lyrin walked taller, more confident. Her size no longer a flaw but a statement. People whispered, of course, they always did, but she ignored them. She had someone who saw her for herself, not a caricature or a shadow. In the quiet of her chamber later that evening, Lyrin finally allowed herself to smile without hesitation. The human had stayed close, sharing her space, talking softly about worlds she had never dreamed of seeing. For the first time she didn't feel isolated. She felt seen, cherished, loved. "You really think I'm perfect?" she asked him one last time, her massive hand brushing his cheek. "I don't think it," he replied, eyes steady. "I know it. You're perfect to me, exactly as you are." Lyrin leaned her head against his shoulder, a soft rumble of contentment vibrating through her chest. She had spent her entire life feeling too big, too much, too different. But in this moment, she realized that perfection wasn't about fitting in. It was about being understood, and for the first time she had found that understanding. And in the warmth of a human who loved her just as she was, Lyrin finally felt home. Lyrin stood at the cliff's edge, the wind tugging at her golden hair, the expanse stretching endlessly before her. She had spent her life feeling too big, too different, too much for anyone to truly accept. Her size had always been a curse, a barrier between her and the world she longed to belong to. But now, standing beside the human who had refused to flinch at her enormity, all of that weight seemed to vanish. His hand found hers, fingers intertwining, and he looked up at her with unwavering sincerity. "You're perfect to me," he whispered. For the first time, Lyrin didn't doubt it. No one else had ever looked at her this way. Not her kin, not the elders, not even her parents. But he saw her. Every inch of her strength, every curve of her size, every tremor of vulnerability. He saw her and loved her. Tears pricked at her eyes, and she let herself lean down, resting her massive head against his shoulder. The wind roared around them, but inside, a calm warmth spread through her chest. She didn't have to shrink herself to fit anyone else's expectations. She didn't have to hide. I feel like I finally belong," she murmured, her deep voice trembling with awe and relief. "You belong wherever you are," he replied softly. "With me, with yourself, you're enough." Lyrin smiled, a rare, unguarded smile that reached her amber eyes. She had spent years searching for acceptance, only to realize it wasn't about changing herself. It was about finding someone who saw her, truly saw her, and cherished her for all that she was. And for the first time she felt home, not in a place, but in a heart that embraced her entirely. She was too big for the world, perhaps, but in his eyes she was exactly right.